everyone, Stormy Strike here, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Breyer horse Geronimo, who is actually the first model in the 2016 Breyer Premier Collection. Geronimo is a traditional scale model horse representing a standing stock horse, and he was sculpted by Mooning Piglet Studios. Here you can see the box that Geronimo came in. Has a picture of Geronimo, it says his name, and also has a really beautiful painted landscape in the background. Then here you can see on the back of the box, it has more about Geronimo and the Breyer Premier Club. Here is a block of text that talks about the Breyer Premier Club, about when it first started, and then a little bit about Geronimo. And then you can also see some pictures of Geronimo when he was in the resin and sculpting stages. And then there's another picture of Geronimo here. This is actually the resin prototype that we see on the box here. This was not the plastic mass-produced edition of the model that was released. And in this video I will talk a little bit about how the plastic mass-produced model and the resin prototype model are a little bit different from each other. And then now here we have the actual model Geronimo, and I also put some of the other things that comes with him, which includes this very nice velvety soft Breyer bag that all the Premier Club models come in. And then we also have this little certificate here that comes with him as well that says the Premier Collection Certificate of Authenticity. And it is in a little plastic seal, and it also opens up to the inside, as you can see here. Now before we go into a in-depth detailed review on this model, I want to just give some brief size comparisons of him with some other well-known stock horse models. So here we have the Peter Stone mold-ish or ideal stock horse, and as you can see they kind of size up to be close to the same size. The ish seems a little bit smaller. And here we have the Breyer Ideal Quarter Horse mold, which is unfortunately a mold that has a lot of flaws in the molding process. It did not come out very well at all. But as you can see here, this model is a little bit more like chunkier compared to Geronimo. But they're also about the same height. But as you can see here, Geronimo has a lot more detail in him in the actual mold. Now let's go ahead and talk more in depth about the model itself. As you can see, he is a standing stock horse with his head turned to the left, and he's a beautiful Grullo pinto. I absolutely love his coloring and his markings. This mold is just beautifully sculpted. It is very, very gorgeous. The only little issues I have with this model have to do with his paint job. And I also want to say, I thought about sending this model back when I first got him because he had quite a few flaws, but I fortunately did manage to fix some of the major flaws. He still has a couple more things I kind of need to fix before I plan on taking him to the show ring. But I ended up deciding to keep him since I was able to fix some of the most major problems with him. I have also heard from other people that got Geronimo that theirs had come with some pretty bad factory flaws and then had to send their models back for a replacement. Now let's start looking at the details of this model up close. We'll start off with the head, and you can see here he has a very orangey, bronzy, metallic kind of colored eye. Now that is the only one thing I kind of wish was different on this model. As you can see here in the photos of the prototype resin, which were actually hand painted by Melina Miller, he has a very pretty dark chocolatey brown eye, and I really wish they had this gorgeous chocolatey brown eye instead. I know in this picture the eye looks way better than it would than any mass-produced Breyer model eye has looked, because this one was hand painted and glossed and everything by Melina Miller instead of being a mass-produced model. But I do wish they would have made the eye on this more of a chocolatey brown instead of this kind of orangey, bronze, goldish kind of color that we see here. Other than that, we can see that the head is very nicely sculpted, and he has a very nice pinking all over his nose, which looks very nice. Now moving along down his neck, we see he has a very nice muscular shoulder here. And then we'll move down to his legs. You can see they're very nicely sculpted, have some nice details in them, even though it kind of doesn't show up well with the white. And you can also see that he has striped hooves, which is very nice considering that Breyer usually just does a simple gradient on the hooves. But this one actually does have some simple airbrushed striping on his hooves. Another nice detail I wanted to show is this really nice pinking that is going on right behind his forelegs. It's not showing up very well here on the camera, but it is a very nice detail though, considering that Breyer doesn't usually do pinking on white markings behind a horse's leg like that. Now moving back along his body, we can see he has a very muscular, well-defined flank, and you can see his markings here with some very cool jagged mapping. Moving back down to his legs again, we see those beautiful peachy striped hooves. You can also see his little pink chestnut on the other side of his leg there. Now looking at the other side of his head here, you can see more of this beautiful sculpting detail. I know it doesn't show up as well with the white, but it is still there. I actually really like this side of his head more than the other side for some reason. Just the whole look he gives here looks really nice. Fortunately for my guy here, his right eye wasn't painted as nicely as his left eye, but I still really like this side of him for some reason. It just has a very, very nice look to him. I also think that the little spot on his nose is very cute, even though it has a little bit of overspray. Now we'll go back down to his neck and we can see more of his markings here. Some more of that beautiful sculpting detail on his shoulder and down on his legs. We can also see down here his beautiful striped hooves again. And then back up to his body. And there is a little bit more pinking on the side of him as well, behind his arm. Again, it doesn't show up as well in this light, but he looks very nice in person. And again, we can see more of his markings here on his flank with that beautiful jagged mapping. It does have a bit of overspray in a few places, but overall it does look very nice. And I also love the rich coloring to him. And then now moving back to his tail, we can see it is very nicely sculpted. Unfortunately, as you can see here, it did not get painted quite as well as it could have. On both sides of the tail, it does have areas where it did not get painted all the way. And I heard that several people's Geronimos had this problem, which is really quite unfortunate. Moving back over his body again, let's go ahead and get a look at his mane as well here, which doesn't show up as well because of the white, unfortunately. Hopefully they will be doing some solid colors of him though, where the mane and other details of him pop out more. But he does have a very nice mane. It's not too long, not too short, kind of just a medium length. I like how it has like the little flip over a bit at the top there. Now let's get a look at the top of him here. And as you can see, his mane actually does have a bridle path right there. Then moving down his mane, down to his back, we can see that he has an airbrushed dorsal stripe, which actually looks very nice. It is slightly crooked, which tends to happen on Breyer models. It actually looks very natural looking though, because it is not a completely straight dorsal stripe. It has a bit of curve to it and follows along his body. It looks very, very nicely done. Probably one of the best dorsal stripes I have seen from Breyer. And now we will flip him over to get a look at his underbelly, and as you can see, the markings on him continue onto his belly. They look really nice. He also has that pinking behind his legs again. And then let's also get a quick look at his hooves here. We can see they are actually very nicely sculpted. And on his left back hoof is the VIN number. You can see here also that his front hooves are also very nicely well sculpted. And they are painted well. It is overall really nice that the bottom of the hooves are so nicely detailed. Now lastly, let's get a bit more close up on his details, especially on his markings, so you can see the mapping there. I actually really like the coloring that they did for the mapping. Instead of just being a gray, it's kind of like an offset color of his original body color, which I think looks really nice and kind of sets him apart from some of the other Breyer models that have gray mapping. Here's unfortunately another flaw in him. I don't know if many of the other ones have this, but it seems like on his flank here, there's for some reason very weird painting going on, like it didn't fully cover him. Not exactly sure why, but it's got like this weird kind of textury look to it, instead of being a nice flat color. Now moving back to get a look at the markings on his neck here better, so you can see more of the mapping going on here. It's got a very jaggedy look to it, which I personally really like. And also here we can see this beautiful curve in his neck, as we can see as we turn him around. And there's a bit more of a look at his markings going on there. And now lastly, let's go ahead and measure this guy to see just how tall and long he is. From the tip of his nose to the end of his tail, he is about 12 inches long, or 30.48 centimeters. And then from the bottom of his hoof to the top of his ears, he stands about 9 inches tall, or 22.86 centimeters. My overall impression of this model is that it is a very, very nice model, and I think it was worth the price that I paid for him. Overall, this new mold is really nicely sculpted. The only problems that this model has are some small problems with the paint job and factory flaws. I am very glad to see this new standing stock horse. I actually like him a lot better than I do the Peter Stone Ideal Stock Horse, which is a big deal considering I have quite a big conga of the Peter Stone-ish. But overall, I like this guy a lot more because he has a lot more details in his mold. He also just seems to represent the stock horse breed even better. So now that concludes this review for the Breyer 2016 Premier Club first release, Geronimo. I will be doing another review like this on the Breyer Premier Club 2016 second release model, which is going to be Shenandoah, a beautiful new draft horse model. So look out for that review in August when he is released. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and comment down below what you think about Geronimo. If you would like to keep up with the latest Breyer news and see more Breyer videos and content in the future, you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have an awesome day!